Mr. Jones, I think one of the fascinating things in the biography is that, well, first we need to have a sense of how many paintings he got together, number one. Number two, we know that a huge collection went to Delaware, and you were involved in that. And then everybody said, oh, the Jones collection went to Delaware. Then, to the surprise of a lot of people, the Jones collection went to Alabama. Will you please get that straight for us?
At the point when the gift was made to Delaware, the Jones collection was in the neighborhood of 3,000 pieces. He gave the University of Delaware half of that, so they got approximately 1,500 works. You know, he was addicted. So when he saw 1,500 works going out the doors, he started calling artists. So I mean, Jim Alexander's out there, you know, he buys them by the pound, right?
Yeah, well, not like that.
So over the period from 2001 and 2007, the collection had gotten back up to close to 3,000 works again. At that point, he made a substantial gift to the University of Alabama. At the point of his death, there were about 800 plus works, roughly, still in the house. And that's interesting because we're talking a period of a year and a half. That's the name of that tomb. And this is also why he made a habit of buying multiples, if not, you know, it's very difficult to just get one piece by an artist. Because this was his formula. Buy one to give, buy a second to maybe give, and buy a third for me. So 3 was kind of a typical, 3 minimum was kind of a typical buy for him for any one artist. What is interesting about the collection is he consistently remained very sensitive to younger and emerging artists. Some of his latest purchases before his death were from MFA shows. So he would still, he bought a number of pieces from MFA shows of student work at the University of Alabama, but he still had a warm spot in his heart for Spelman. So Spelman undergrad shows were still important sources of art for him. And there's and even though this isn't art related, I do think it's important to comment that one of the more interesting bodies of photographs that are in the gift, that these are historical photographs, are some photographs that he acquired of people related to the King family. But it's everyone in the King family except Martin Luther King Jr. And when I asked him why he was interested in that, he said, because it's nice for us to be reminded that in addition to being an activist, he was a husband, he was a father, he was a son. Much of that work is in litigation. The University of Alabama is claiming most of that work. I am fighting them unofficially. Technically, it's the estate that is involved in litigation, but of course, you know, Paul passed in hospice, and one of the unusual things that happened when he was in hospice is, it's amazing, collectors are different animals. And even though he was in hospice and had not spoken for 4 days, 2 days before he died, he managed to speak. He didn't talk about his son. He did not discuss his own health. He did not discuss why he was where he was, because he was transported in a semi-subconscious state. Fell asleep in one place and woke up in another. He didn't inquire about that. He said, take care of the art. That's what I intend to do, at whatever cost. And I think those of you who are in academia know what I mean, at whatever cost. Because one of the reasons I'm so happy the papers are here is because things that are important to you, you need to invest the time in finding the right home for those things. I do not believe there is a better place for the Paul R. Jones papers than here at this point in time. If I felt differently, they would not be here. So I am passionate about having made this decision. I am passionate about that art. Some of the art in question is mine. I know how to call things home that belong to me. So the fate of, who has that question? Sharon? So the fate of that is to be determined. If anybody has an extra prayer hanging around that you're not using, channel it in that direction, because, and I wish no ill will to Alabama. I just want the best for that art. And whatever happens, it's coming home. No matter what, it's coming home. What will happen after that, I don't know. I am actively, the art is supposed to be sold, but what I am hoping will happen is that I can identify people who will purchase with the intent of gifting it to institutions. Because he wanted the art where it could be seen and where people could study around it. So that's my dream. I may hit, if I hit the lottery, I know where it's going. And there's more than one way to hit the lottery. That's why I know some rich widow men. I never know. And that's another tale.
In response to this lady's question over here about the passion, Paul Jones' real passion was he was really incensed about the way that American society and society around the world valued black art. He was really, really passionate about that, why this person's art over here would be worth $1 million, and then you look at this piece over here, and the guy would have to try to sell it for $150. All right? So that was Paul's real passion. And any time, if you ever went to hear him speak somewhere, that was going to come out before he left.
But that's true. In fact, he tells the story about looking at a Picasso. You heard this. But looking at a Picasso and then looking at Charles White. And he said this Picasso is valued in the millions. And Charles White, you're saying, is worth like $5,000. He said, you're telling me Picasso is 200 times more valuable than Charles White? And he said that the dealer said, well, I don't think so. He said, but the price says so. And so there were issues like that. But, I think I think I told you art collecting was a political act for him, essentially. but I also think his sensitivity to the arts actually went back to his very close relationship with his mother, who had award-winning gardens. And I think she opened him up to beautiful things and taught him that even a wildflower has its own unique beauty. So you've got to be open with this idea of what is beautiful. He also told his story about his mother was so meticulous and committed to that garden. She'd wake up at 3 in the morning and move this little trickling hose that was watering her garden row by row, and would take him, she would wake him up and take him with her. So I think some of that sensitivity was instilled in him through her. But the funny story about her is there was an annual competition for the best garden in Bessemer, where he grew up. His mother won every year. And she was such a consistent winner that one year the county came to her and said, don't enter so someone else can win. But I think just her commitment to that instilled a commitment in him. And then when he said he went to school, and he's in school, and every art course he took that he didn't want to take, but he was required to take, he said there was never a discussion of African American art. And he was intrigued when he finally found his way in graduate school at Howard, that there was not only the discussion of African American art, but he said they actually had a room with art in it. He said that's a room, and he said that's a gallery. But it was the beginning. That was the beginning of his education. That he was like, well, where's all this stuff in all my life? So I think it's a combination of things. But what Jim is saying is he was very concerned about the way in which the work was valued. Very concerned. In fact, he did buy low and see a high, because he was trying to help that situation along.